I can sleep for 14 hours straight, and when I wake up, I'm still tired, just like in real life. Now all I need to do is step on it over and over again. Also, I managed to die to the sun. What could go wrong drinking this special skoma? God damn it.
Hey, ihr da. Endlich seid ihr wach.
Nah, no one wants to see this again. So let me tell you about this video instead. I simply wanted to play with all diseases. I know that sounds rather boring, and at first I wasn't even sure if I should record anything. But there were a lot of twists and I had a lot of fun playing this, so I thought I might as well share it. First things first, yes, it's absolutely possible to collect every single disease in the game. And let's be real here, Skyrim is really easy to cheese, so there shouldn't be really a problem anywhere. Now, there might be some things that you might argue should be classified as disease while they are not, and some shouldn't be even though they are. But we will see about all of that later in the video. Now, to set the expectations of this video right, my main focus was about the journey I went through. I started mostly unprepared, I just had a very basic plan on what I want to do. So I ran into a lot of things that would not have been the case if I had prepared myself properly by reading up on some of the stuff and making an actual plan. But in my opinion that's the actual interesting part. And to wrap this up for now, let's talk about the rules. I didn't make any specific rules to follow, but I will stick to, let's call it my code, of not using major exploits, like let's say doing the alchemy enchanting loop to boost my stats or something like that. Also, my main goal is to acquire the diseases as fast as possible, and by fast I don't mean in time or something, I just mean that I'm not going out of the way to pickpocket everyone and do side quests and blah 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 to level up. Just that I really want to get them early so that I can do most of the run while I have all of them. And before we get started, a quick note to my character. After some tinkering around, I decided to go for a really basic rotten to the core look to emphasize the diseases I'm carrying. Alright, let's skip straight through Helgen.
Das scheint der Weg nach draußen zu sein. Ich wusste, wir würden es schaffen.
And that's where the first surprise hit me. The game wants to know if I want to play in survival mode. And I have no idea what that means, because I never had that before. This is probably the right time to mention that I'm playing the special edition, not the anniversary edition. Might be interesting to someone, I don't know. Anyways, talking about survival mode. It adds that you can get cold, that you can get hungry, and that you can get tired. Also, after reading it up, I figured out that you can get more diseases, and that the diseases get worse, so obviously I will be playing with it. And don't forget to mention that our carry capacity is halved immediately. This means we get a sweet taste of all the debuffs we are going to run straight away. Which means I have to drop a ton of stuff on the spot to keep moving. Additionally, fast traveling has been disabled and I need to sleep to level up. Luckily I have already gained 2 levels while running through Helgen, which I use it to increase my health 2 times and put some points into restoration. Alright, let's speed things up a bit. I followed Ralof so I could empty Gerdur's inventory and her house. And then I had the first rest of many to come. And now it's time to get around here somewhere. So off we go to Whiterun, so we can take the carriage to Riften.
Wohin soll's gehen? Klettert wieder hinein, dann sind wir weg.
Arriving there, I realize I have to take another rest. So let's take care of that before moving out.
Natürlich.
Off we go! And since I'm still only level 3, I only had to fight a few wolves. Almost died to a Spriggan. Fight some more wolves. But hey, we're almost there. Oh yeah. And finally, the Redwater Den. For those that don't know, this is a vampire lair which lures in Skoma junkies.
Ah, willkommen.
That could definitely explain why they don't mind me stealing some gold.
Haben, oder? Ihr könnt etwas von mir kaufen und dann in jeder beliebigen Sitzecke Platz nehmen. Ihr seht angespannt aus. Nehmt in einer Sitzecke Platz und entspannt euch ein wenig. Oder braucht ihr Nachschub? Da es euer erstes Mal ist, warum nicht? Sucht euch eine Sitzecke und genießt es.
Although I'm a bit surprised that they let me sneak around in the back rooms without getting hostile. Unfortunately for me, my plan to sneak in through the back door failed because I couldn't find a way to open the secret passage from here. So I tried my luck sneaking in through the front door. But since I'm still really terrible at sneaking and I'm a total pushover, that plan didn't work out too well either. Well, let's just say that I died a lot here, and I will just show you how I ended up doing it in the end. I figured it would be best if I do this as intended by drinking the special Skoma.
Das war's. Diese armen Schlucker können nicht widerstehen, wenn sie einmal eine Dosis eures Skoma gekostet haben.
Das Wasser aus der Quelle verstärkt das Skoma so sehr, dass wir alle Sklaven haben, die wir je brauchen könnten.
After breaking out of my cell, I first run back to the front entrance to lure my enemies in that direction. As a nice bonus, I can collect some potions here. Then I make my way in the direction I actually have to go, where I have to pull a lever to lower a bridge. In the next section, the hardest part was to find the right way. I ended up so often in a dead end and got overwhelmed by all the enemies. And to finish the first cave, I simply have to open this hidden passage, step through it and close it right behind me so the enemies can follow me. Sneaking wasn't an option for the second cave either, so I run it again right through it. Unfortunately, this vampire lady followed me through the door, and I stand no chance against her. Luckily the game seems to pity me, so after loading the autosave from the door, the vampire lady isn't there anymore. And for the dirt cave, I decided to demonstrate the power of a stealth archer. For the fourth chamber, I recycled the door trick. Finally, we're in the last chamber, and this one I actually managed to do in the first try. It certainly helps that you can pick a master lock in a few split seconds. But sadly, master vampires know how to use doors. Luckily, the game carried me once more.
Wo seid ihr?
Yeah, that's a good question. And finally, we can do what we came here for. We can drink from the Redwater well, which contains all the diseases in the game. At least that's what I thought. Before I talk about the diseases and what they do, let me show you where you can get the ones that are not in the Redwater well.
Wie fühlt ihr euch? Ich fürchte, ihr könntet krank sein.
Alright, the remaining diseases. If you would play without survival mode, there would only be one disease left to get, the droops. Only Ashhoppers can carry the droops. They can only be found on Solstheim, which is part of the Dragonborn DLC. The Redwater well released with the Dawn-God DLC, which is older than the Dragonborn DLC, and thus it doesn't carry the droops. I went to a spot near the Earthstone to get infected. But since we play with survival mode, that's not the end of our journey. Next stop is Iverstead. It's located roughly in the middle of the triangle that Whiterun, Helgen and Riften build. Also it's conveniently close to the Redwater Den. Close to the small town is a troll cave. And a troll is what we need to get infected with the next disease. The gut worm. As already mentioned, I don't think classifying this as a disease is right, but hey, it's just a game. Next on the list is the brown rot. You can get infected by any Draugr, so it's probably the easiest to get. I didn't go anywhere specific, I just went into the first ruin I saw as I was on my way to Windhelm to get to Solstheim. And as a fun side note, I had the most poetic death. As I was doing this dude's quest and I was looting the family grave, he got angry at me and then one of the Draugr, which is one of his ancestors, nailed me with the perfect headshot. And the last stop is at the Lady Stone, which you can find north of Falkreath in the middle of a lake on a small island. The actual goal is the lake itself because we need to get bitten by slaughterfish, so that they can infect us with green spore. Quick note before we go over the diseases. I reached level 7 and I put 1 point into health, 1 into magicka and 2 into stamina. And then I put 2 points into sneaking, 1 into archery and 1 into restoration. Alright, let's go really quick over all the diseases and their effects. Let's start with ataxia, which gives us a debuff on lockpicking and pickpocketing. In survival mode, your diseases get worse over time over 3 stages. It starts with 25%, over 50% to 75%. Next up is the Bone Breaker fever, which reduces the max stamina you can have by 25, 50 and 75 points. Going on to Brain Rot, which does the same but to magicka. Next on the list is Brown Rot, and we can immediately see that it is a survival mode disease, because not only does it reduce the effectiveness of our armor, light or heavy, it also reduces how restful our sleep is, by 25, 50 and 75%. Moving on to the Droops, this simply reduces the weapon damage of our one-handed and two-handed weapons by 15, 30 and 45%. Now I take the freedom to continue at the end of the list. With Witbane, and I don't really like the way it's written. What it does essentially is it reduces your magicka recovery by 50, 75 and then 100%. Climbing up on the list, and I hope I pronounced it correctly, is Sanguinari Vampiris. It reduces your maximum health by 25 points and it turns into vampirism. Moving on with Rock Joint. This is basically the big brother of the Droops with a scaling of 25, 50 and 75%. Whew, almost done. Now it's the Rattles. This is basically the same as Witbane but for stamina regeneration, and that it's written more intuitively to me. Now there's only survival mode stuff left. Hence, the Gutworm doesn't only affect our stamina recovery, but also reduces the effectiveness of food, both by 25, 50 and 75%. Finally, Green Spore affects all aspects of speech, including prices by 25, 50 and 75%. Now there's one thing left, food poisoning, and I don't have that, and I also can't get it. This is because I play as an Agonian, and they are immune to that. But I think that's fine for me, because if I really wanted to have it, I simply had to play with another race. Also, it doesn't really classify as a disease if you ask me, neither does it feel like any other disease in the game. Because you can get it when you eat raw meat, and then it's there for a few days and goes away on its own. I'm totally fine the way it is now. Also, I'm pretty lazy. Speaking of diseases I don't have, in the code of Skyrim is a disease named Blackheart Blight. However, there is no possible way to get it in the game. And all it does is reduce your carry weight by 10 points, and I definitely have to suffer enough in that regard by just playing in survival mode. Now that I have all the diseases, I went adventuring, just like you're supposed to do. Then I noticed that I have negative damage on some weapons. I also noticed that daggers aren't affected by the damage drain for some reason. And sadly, the negative damage doesn't heal your opponents. That would have been fun. The next important thing that happened was that I finally turned into a vampire. However, it didn't work out the way I planned it, because it healed me from all the diseases I had. With the exception of Brown Rot. Don't ask me why. After reading up on some things, and finally making a plan, I decided it's time to join the Dawn Guard.
Seht euch ruhig in der Festung und nehmt mit, was ihr gebrauchen könnt.
Oh boy, you don't need to tell me that twice. Although, thanks to my carry capacity, I focused on things that you can eat. And don't worry, I'm not going over every detail of the Dawn God quest. Actually, I'm not doing most of it anyway, but I still have some notes that I want to talk about. Obviously, I saved Serana, and on the way to her home, I took up the Steed Stone, because more carry capacity.
Seht die Macht.
And now, it's time.
Dies ist die Macht, die ich euch anbiete. Nun trefft eure Entscheidung.
To refuse Harkon's offer.
So sei es.
Why, you ask? Well, it just didn't feel in character to serve him. And this way I saw something I have never seen before. I always wondered why these so good vampire hunters never noticed that you are one.
Was macht ihr denn
But
da?
if you refuse to join Harkon, you will be greeted with this scene after you've recruited a few more members.
Genug sein. Und es scheint, wir haben ein Problem. Weil ihr mich schon früher angegriffen haben könntet, nehme ich einmal an, dass es ein Missverständnis war. Und nun gebe ich euch die Chance, wieder gesund zu werden. Wenn ihr das schafft, hat die Dämmerwacht vielleicht immer noch Bedarf an euren Diensten. Ich werde hier warten.
It still feels a bit weird that they don't notice you, especially if you're a stage 4 vampire.
Willkommen zurück. Gut, dass ihr euch um euer Problem selbst gekümmert habt. So habt ihr vermieden, dass es zu meinem Problem geworden ist. Sorine und Gunmar machen gute Fortschritte.
Sterben. Oder
But enough sidetracking. Let's bring this to an end. The next step of my plan is to finally become a vampire lord.
Ich werde versuchen, es so schmerzlos wie möglich zu machen. Haltet still.
Now that I've upgraded to being a vampire lord, all I need to do is collect all the diseases again. Feels a bit like going into prestige mode. But wait a minute, don't vampires are immune to diseases? Well, yes, but actually no. It appears that traps don't care about your disease resistance. And conveniently, the trap with the highest disease chance is right here in this castle. The infected bones, with a stunning 40% chance to infect you with a disease. However, after banging myself against them for at least an hour, I have come to the conclusion that this is the only trap that works the way it's supposed to. But hey, this castle is full of traps, so we just go to the next one, the bear trap. The chance to get infected with a disease could be better, but it will do. So now all I need to do is step on it over and over again.
Gehen wir. Mutter müsste auf der anderen Seite dieses Dings warten.
2 hours later.
Traps only carry base game diseases, so I have to make a small tour, starting with slaughterfishes, which I find at the Lady Stone again. Some random Gaugas somewhere. And a troll that I stumbled upon on my way to Everstead.
Mich bekommt ihr nicht.
Also pretty intense that the troll left me with 9 hit points and I had 0 regeneration of anything. Also I managed to die to the sun. The last step would be getting the troops. However, I really didn't manage that. I easily spent 10 hours trying stuff. But why do exactly the troops give me so much trouble? I use the traps to get the base game diseases, and traps work with a script that applies them directly to you so they ignore your disease resistance. And the survival mode diseases are apparently bugged, so they do kind of the same thing. However, the troops function normally as diseases should work, and the really only source that I could find was the Ashhoppers. And even though I was sure all resistances have a cap at 85%, I have spent so much time getting bitten by Ashhoppers, it's ridiculous. Although I made a small calculation here, if I spend 5 hours getting bitten by them, and we take about every 10 seconds one bite, because loading times and when they refuse to attack and blah blah blah, I would have gotten bitten 1800 times. And if we assume that the droops occur with a 1% chance and I have 85% resistance, then I should have gotten infected about 3 times. Of course, it could just have been bad luck if the number is that low. And because I don't know if it is possible, I'm really sorry, but I don't feel like trying it any longer. I even tried to get hit by weakling traps, but that didn't work either. Anyways, if I have to choose between having the droops or vampirism, I'm clearly going to choose vampirism. Not only is it much cooler, it also adds a little dilemma in survival mode. You can either go out in the sunlight and suffer the debuffs, or you can go out at night when it's much colder. On top of that, we already have the worse version of droops with rock joint. But if you know anything that could work, let me know in the comments. I will gladly try it out. Now let's have another look at our debuffs. We have a bit of adjusting to do. Vampirism affects quite a few things, and the droops fall away. Don't forget that I'm playing in survival mode, so unless I feed my gutworm like crazy, I will have some more debuffs. On top of that, I can sleep for 14 hours straight, and when I wake up, I'm still tired, just like in real life. I guess it's time to wrap this video up. Small update on my build. I put 3 attribute points in Magicka, 7 in Stamina and 10 in Health. The skill points you can see for yourself. Unsurprisingly, I put most points into Archery and Stealth because those weren't affected by any debuffs. As you have seen, if you would not play as an Argonian or Khajiit, you could easily have all the diseases at the same time, at least if you don't count Vampirism or Werewolf as one. However, you would constantly have to cure yourself because Sanguinari Vampiris will turn you into a vampire and cure all diseases anyway, which means basically you have to recollect them over and over again unless you play as a vampire as I do. Unfortunately, that's not really a solution for everything, because in order to get to some points in the Dawnguard questline, I have to get rid of Vampirism again, or if you want to do the Companions questline, you have to become a werewolf. So there would definitely be a lot of legwork involved, but it's definitely possible. And I will definitely keep playing with this build. I had a lot of fun, even though sometimes it's really frustrating. And who knows, maybe one day I will release an update video on how my build turns out. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it and have a nice day.